So why should this concern us? Because kids are becoming sexualized younger and younger. And they are the target of these different ideologies. So how is it being implemented in schools? Everywhere. Through anti-bullying programs like the one that I was trained in. Through health education, sex ed programs like the 3 R's, which we will be discussing a little bit later. Library books. School-wide events, like I mentioned. We do a Pride Week in Austin, where they celebrate Pride for a whole week. And things like the Day of Silence, which is all over everywhere, middle school and high school. Or clubs like GLSEN, the Gay, Lesbian, Straight Education Network. The Human Rights Campaign, you can see their symbol there, are the ones that created the Welcoming Schools program that my school district in 2014 decided to introduce to the schools. And this program is primarily targeting kindergarten through 5th graders, but whatever kindergartners do, pre-K students do. The Advocates for Youth have this program. It's called the 3 R's, and I know you probably thought it was reading, writing, and math, right? Or arithmetic, right? No, it stands for rights, respect, and responsibility. And so this is an organization that is friends with Planned Parenthood, and they are advocates for abortion and sexual rights of children. And that's what the rights stands for. Okay, so what does it look like when you have Advocates for Youth 3 R's program or one like it in your school? Well, if you have a kindergartner or a 1st grader, they would share details about genitalia in groups, and you can see some of the names up there. They would celebrate diverse families, like if they're going to ask you a question, this is part of their curriculum, they would say, is it okay if some children have 2 mothers or 2 fathers? And of course the answer would be yes. And then they would also show you how to support others in gender nonconformity roles. In other words, transgenderism. So if you have a 2nd grader, a 7 or 8 year old, they would learn this, and I want you to wrap your mind around this because it could really, really go over you if you don't focus on this. This is what they say in their program. There are some body parts that mostly just girls have, and some parts that mostly just boys have. Being a boy or a girl doesn't mean that you have to have those parts. This is transgenderism. And then they suggest that you read My Princess Boy to the children. And the last one is one that is super a hotbed here for parents, of course, is because they teach kids that kids get to decide what touches feel good to them. They have to find out what those touches are. And they decide. Not you. They do. So if you have a 4th or 5th grader now, you're a little more sophisticated. So you're going to learn more detailed terminology, and you can read the next sentence. Coaching children to overcome discomfort, discussing private matters. This is where you will talk about, they want kids to open up and start talking about very private matters and not having any inhibitions about it. And they would tell you, well, if you want to go for somewhere for more information, you can go to the books in the school library. You can talk to the nurse, a doctor. You can go to the internet. But parents are not mentioned in this material. And so that's, you see this slide has just a host of books that would target young children, okay? You would see on the far left, you would see Jazz, and she has her own TV show. That's a very popular book that they read to kids in school right now. Okay, and then I was looking for Jacob's New Dress, but I don't see it right off. But these are some, they're especially compelling. You can see the beautiful colors and the themes of animals. And these are all targeting children between early childhood to second grade. This is the book that is going around the room right now. It's Perfectly Normal. This is targeting 4th and 5th graders. Is this perfectly normal for a children's book? Can you see why this would be in the adult section? But this book is in school libraries. At the bottom, someone said, I cannot define pornography, but I know when I see it. This is another book. It's not just for the youngest students in school. This is a book that is targeting 5th graders and middle school. And this man here, Alex Gino, he identifies himself as a woman, and he's written this book. And so a librarian in the school, they are the ones that are really, they focus on librarians to fill these libraries at your schools. And so then they introduce this to the student body and share them with the students and say, we have these new books, and they showcase them on the shelves and different things like that. And you can see at the bottom, right here, I have to go back. The source is the Advocates for Youth website. Okay. Now, these are some different scenes of pictures that I took. This is something you can look around at your school for. If you see any of these kinds of elements at your school, that will give you an indication of what's going on in your school. But if you see the little one at the bottom on the left, right there, that's a little bitty sticker that's on a teacher's door. Not all the teachers had that pride sticker. But if you see a teacher with a sticker like that on her door or on his door, you'll know they're on board. And they're probably using that to teach your children with. This is just the Pride Parade that Austin promoted. Are they appropriate for school-sponsored events? This is what the Austin children got to see. Some other things that schools are doing around Texas and around the country are things like this. The Day of Silence. Is anybody in here familiar with the Day of Silence? That would be the day that you show your support for the LGBT community. And the kids tape their mouths shut. And they're not allowed to speak that day. And so what they do is they bully each other and their friends for not participating. And these are clubs that you have in school, in middle school and high school, that are student-initiated, so to speak. But all you have to do is go to their website. They will tell you how to do one. You can see they work with LGBT students of color, promoting that among minority people. They have curriculum guides for teacher. There's another program, Ready, Set, Respect, and Gay Straight Alliances. That's a club, GSA, that kids have at school. So according to the statistics, 2 out of 100 turn out to practice homosexuality. Pretty small, huh? That means 98 don't. So why does such a small population have so much weight in the ways our children are educated today? Because of people like this. This is Bear Bergman. She's an activist from Canada, and she said, I'm here to tell you, all that time I wasn't indoctrinating anyone with my beliefs about gay and lesbian and bi and trans queer people. That was a lie. I have come to advocate your children, indoctrinate your children into my LGBTQ agenda, and I'm not a bit sorry. So this is getting pushed really hard and heavy in schools. I found that on my journey to learn about what's going on and how did this happen, that sometimes you have to go back a little bit in history. And this is a very short part, but very helpful. Because whose values, whose beliefs and language have come into our schools? Who are these people that have brought this in? We know Karl Marx from his Communist Manifesto. It says here, I want to point out that his main goal was the destruction of the family. That was his main goal. And religion. Margaret Sanger, she is the mother of Planned Parenthood. She's the person who started it to begin with. And she was a racist and a eugenicist, ridding world of human weeds through contraception. That means people like myself and people darker than myself. So she had an agenda that these people needed to be eliminated and cut down, and she started Planned Parenthood. But finally, we have Alfred Kinsey. And Alfred Kinsey was a pedophile and extreme sexual deviant. And we know this because of Dr. Judith Reisman, who has done so much research on the father of the sexual revolution. He had the belief that children can receive sexual pleasure from birth. And he conducted some research, you'll see that in quotes, based on other deviants, and he shaped society's modern concepts of sexuality. You see, he said children are sexual from birth. So they need to learn to be sexual as young as possible. And he flaunted his research that he used homosexuals and pedophiles and prisoners, and he used that research that he did to say that this was true. And it's not up here, but Hugh Hefner said, Alfred Kinsey is the father of the sexual revolution, and I'm going to be his pamphleteer. So what are the tenets of this sex ed that I've come here to share with you? What do they really, really believe? What do they really, really teach? That anything goes, no judgments allowed, even on established high-risk behavior, because you're focusing on the sexual rights of children. The more information and the earlier your small children get it, the better. Thus, starting at 4. Sexuality is our entire selves, influences us in every way, and encompasses everything. There are many ways to express sexuality, and each is equal. So what that means is a man and a woman, when they come together in marriage, be it a man, woman, or whatever combination, they believe that all of those lifestyles are equal to be explored. Children have the right to question their parents' ideas about sex, to explore their own sexuality through experimentation, and to develop their own values. And that's exactly what is super important to Planned Parenthood, right there. They actually have conferences and materials, and they tell the trainers and the teachers how to teach children to not go by what their parents believe. That religion is harmful and stifling, and that they need to develop their own values. And parents have the duty to support them in their quest without judgment. In other words, kids are encouraged in these programs. You have to decide what's right for you to do with your sexuality. No. You have to decide. Remember, these are small children. You have to decide what's right for you. And mom and dad, you have to support me. Whatever I want to do, without any judgment. So their mantra is sexual rights over sexual health. And I'll tell you that is true. Just 2 weeks ago in Austin, our Student Health Advisory Council voted to give the 3 R's curriculum model to our school district, and one of the first words that came out of her mouth was sexual rights of children. So Because of that, because of this education model that Planned Parenthood, Advocates for Youth, have concentrated in the state of Texas, in the largest cities, we have a problem. We have 20 million new cases of STD infections annually, and this is from the Center for Disease Control. So what's the problem with that? Well, let me show you. The ages 15 to 24, 27% of the population are the young people. They only represent 27% of that. But you can see at the bottom, 50% of the 20 million, they're the ones with the new STIs. So they're overrepresented. I don't know if you're familiar with the age of consent laws, but people who are under the age of 17 are not capable, according to the law, of giving consent to sexual activity. It is against the law to groom, to teach children to engage in sexual behavior. So when you see this iceberg, I want to point this out in particular. That, you know how they always talk of the iceberg is just what's on top, right? That's what you see. And maybe that's what you're being told. They're telling you, well, the kids, they need to know how their bodies work. And, you know, all the little things that they're told, like on the side you can see, they're told that, oh, this is science-based. Oh, we only teach age-appropriate things or medically accurate. That's only the tip of the iceberg. You really have to go underneath. You have to really explore these programs and these people coming to your schools and peddling their products and to see what's underneath, because there's a lot of other things you aren't being told. So how did they get into our schools to begin with, right? How did this all happen? Well, I was asking someone earlier if their school district had a School Health Advisory Council, or SHAC. We call it a SHAC for short. And this is a committee that is made up of citizens, and this was started by then Governor Bush in 1995. And the reason that he instituted the School Health Advisory Council is because he wanted the community to represent or to ensure that the school, the community's values were reflected in the programs that they would use to teach sex education. So he said, every school district in Texas must have a School Health Advisory Council. Not only that, a majority of the people serving on that council must be parents, according to the law, and to be in compliance. They must be parents, and they cannot be employed by the district. For obvious reasons, right? Now, at the same time, okay, so here are some of the committees that are also included in the School Health Advisory Council. They're the ones that make the recommendation on your sex education program and other health curriculum. And what they do is they recommend to the Board of Trustees. Then the board is the one that makes the decisions on what programs are implemented, right? And that's what the superintendent implements. So when this School Health Advisory Council was created, another council was created. This time, this is the Texas Freedom Network Education Fund. This is an arm of Planned Parenthood. Then Cecile Richards, the daughter of Ann Richards, said, okay, if the state of Texas is going to ensure that the community values are reflected, then we want to be in every shack in the state of Texas because we want our values in the sex education program. And so this was their goal. Their goal, and this is their website page of the TFN, and here you can see several things, and one of the things at the bottom, right here, one of their goals or links is counter the radical right. Right there. And here you can go to the Texas Freedom Network, and they will teach you how to infiltrate the shack. And that's what we have in Austin. Okay? And most cities. And their goal was to infiltrate and get Planned Parenthood or their affiliates in every major city in Texas. And then, you know what would happen after that? Smaller surrounding areas would say, we want to be like Austin. We want to be like San Antonio. We want to be like Lubbock. You see? And so that was their goal, and they have been doing that since 1995. So it's not any wonder that when you do go, we're having parents outraged all over the state, because they are already there. This is their business model, and so they advocate sex. Anytime, any place, any age, with anyone. Right? So if you're having sex and you're a child, you need contraception. You need contraception. If you're having sex and then you need contraception, you're going to get sick. You're going to need health care. You're going to need testing. You're no longer healthy. And then, eventually, you'll have an abortion. And our personal friend, Abby Johnson, who left Planned Parenthood as a whistleblower, she told us just last month when we went to a ladies' luncheon for pro-life women, she said, our plan at Planned Parenthood was to make sure that every young girl came through our office before she was 18 to have an abortion, because once she did, she would be a customer for life. So, you might be considering programs for your schools, or you might be looking into the programs at your child's school and wonder, well, what kind of programs are there? On this slide, you can see that there are two types, basically two types. And if you'll look in your book right now, you can probably see that page in there so that you can see it up a little bit closer. I wanted to put that in there so that you would have that up close. You can see that on the left, at the top it says sexual risk avoidance. That's an SRA model, or an abstinence-only education program. Okay? Now, on the right, you'll see a sexual risk reduction model, SRR, or in other words, comprehensive sex education. That's what's all in the news right now. That's what you'll hear. In the middle, a lot of districts will claim that they are sexual risk avoidance or sex ed abstinence plus programs. And that means they have a component of contraception in them. And they want to share with the children about that. So you'll be looking at, once you're looking at your programs, you'll be able to evaluate them according to this simple chart. And you can see that an SRA model is one that is focused on abstinence, just as the state of Texas mandates that abstinence or waiting for children is the preferred choice of behavior. That is state law. Okay? And that it's the best outcome for our children. It says here, they teach that students skills on not engaging in sexual behavior. And you'll see on the sexual reduction side that they basically believe their focus is your kids are going to have sex. So we're just going to make it easier by showing them how to use contraception, how to do it, and use condoms. That's their big, they think that's the be-all and end-all of everything. That if you'll just use a condom, everything will be okay. But if you consult the CDC or the Center for Disease Control, you'll find that condoms are not as reliable with the different STIs and STDs that people get. So they're not giving kids the real truth completely of the reality rates of what can happen. And I have to tell you that in Anal sex is a big push in middle school and high school right now, but condoms are not designed for anal sex. They're not. It even says it on the package. Look at the booklet now. And turn to the back. You will see a page that has the Texas Code 28.004. It's actually on the second page. I'm sorry about that. Second page. And I've highlighted in yellow the lines that particularly speak to the sex ed part of the school health advisory councils. So you can see, and I'm certainly not going to read this whole thing to you, but when you do go through it, you will find what a shack consists of, according to the law, and being compliant with the law, who can be on it, how many times they must meet, and how parents must be informed about the program that your school has decided to teach them. They also have to have access to the program and be able to view it. And also, if you can, students' parents can opt out their children from these lessons. If it's a sexual risk reduction or comprehensive sex ed program, you want to opt your kids out of that. Okay, you do want to opt them out. And they can be opted out without any punishment. That's key, right? But I will tell you this, that kids do feel awkward when they are the only ones that don't go, right? But that may be an exercise in having to stand, right, as well. So in the booklet, because of the different components that we put in there, it speaks to a page right at the, where is that? The first page, the second page. For those of you who may be interested in this part, we did make a list of programs that are prominently used here in Texas. We are not taking a stand today on whether we recommend these programs. We're simply giving you a list. That would be something that your district would need to decide. But you can see on the SRA side, or the sexual risk avoidance or abstinence, they're on the left. Those are some programs that are being used currently. On the right, you will see the sex risk reduction, which is the comprehensive sex education. And at the bottom, there are some sources for information about SRA programs that you can look up to find out what the components are and whether you want to bring in certain kinds of programs into your schools.